One by the Beatles is a great compilation album. The Beatles are my favorite band of all time, so of course I enjoy all 27 songs on here. The only problem is there's a few number one songs that are missing, such as Strawberry Fields Forever and I think Please Please Me. But this is a great concept for an album. I mean, it just shows how many hits the Beatles had because there are so many songs that weren't number one hits that are great as well. Even their deep cuts are awesome. Just the Beatles rule in general. Um, I'm more partial to their later stuff. I like the early stuff too, but so some of my favorites on here are Something, Let It Be, Hey Jude. I always liked Hello Goodbye. And then from the early ones, I really like We Can Work It Out, Ticket to Ride, 8 Days a Week. Love Me Do was my first Beatles song as a little kid, so there's a special place in my heart for it. But I like every song on here. Um, the Beatles have been a big part of the soundtrack of my life. My only gripe about this album is the way they remastered it. They really should leave these Beatles recordings alone. Every time they remaster them, they put too much emphasis on one certain background noise and it becomes the focus of the song even over the vocals and it's very distracting. So I'd rather they just leave the original recordings intact. That's the only problem I have with it. But this is a great compilation for someone to get started with the Beatles who has never heard them before. It gives a general idea of how, they've evolved over the years and how, they started out playing kind of love songs and early rock and roll sort of stuff to some more really experimental, psychedelic, very emotionally meaningful tracks. That's not to say the early stuff wasn't great, because of course it was. I mean, um, the Beatles have always been creative, in my opinion, and some of those early songs are super catchy and so much fun. And so this album is easily 5 out of 5 stars because it's like some of the Beatles' best work. I mean, all of these hits are just phenomenal. I can't praise it enough. So this compilation came out in 2000, so obviously there whoever has the rights to all the Beatles music is just milking it for money. But you know what? It's a great compilation, so you can't complain. But if you're getting these songs like on Spotify or adding them to your playlist, I would recommend getting either the album versions or the ones from their other box set that came out like in the 70s, because the the mixing and mastering on this version is a little bit poor and it kind of takes away from the sound a little bit in my opinion. But anyways, that's the review for One by the Beatles compilation. Solid 5 out of 5 for me, for my favorite band of all time, the Beatles.